Hi, I'm Caden Zimmerman, and today I'm going to be reading from Joshua chapter 12. It's a great chapter, and if you need to name any future kids, there's a lot of good ones in here, so make sure to write some down. Feel free to read along. These are the kings of the land whom the Israelites had defeated, and whose territory they took over east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon, including all the eastern side of the Arabah. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. He ruled from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge, from the middle of the gorge, to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. This included half of Gilead. He also ruled over the eastern Arabah from the Sea of Galilee to the Sea of the Arabah, that is, the Dead Sea, to Beth Jeshimoth, and then southward below the slopes of Pisgah. And the territory of Og, king of Bashan, one of the last of the Rephaites, who reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. He ruled over Mount Hermon, Salekah, all of Bashan to the border of the people of Gesher and Makkah, and half of Gilead to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites conquered them, and Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave their land to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh to be their possession. Here is a list of the kings of the land that Joshua and the Israelites conquered on the west side of the Jordan, from Baal-Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halach, which rises toward the Seir. Joshua gave their lands as an inheritance to the tribes of Israel according to their tribal divisions. The lands included the hill country, the western foothills, the Arabah, the mountain slopes, the wilderness, and the Negev. These were the lands of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These were the kings: the king of Jericho, the king of Ai, near Bethel, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, the king of Gezer, the king of Debir, the king of Geder, the king of Hormah, the king of Arad, the king of Libnah, the king of Adullam, the king of Makkedah, the king of Bethel, the king of Tappuah, the king of Hepher, the king of Aphek, the king of Lasharon, the king of Madon, the king of Hazor, the king of Shimron Miron, the king of Azkapah, Azkshaph, the king of Tanach, the king of Megiddo, the king of Kedesh, the king of Jokneam in Carmel, the king of Dor in Naphoth Dor, the king of Goyim in Gilgal, the king of Tirzah. 31 kings in all. I don't know if I said any of these names right, so if you know how to say these names, please don't be offended. So, this chapter is essentially credits. This guy, and 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 this guy. But credits are cool. I mean, I remember when I went to see Spider-Man Far From Home in theaters. I was waiting for the end credit scene like all Marvel fans do, and they just kept going and going, and all the boring people left, and then they kept going and going. But I stopped to think about it, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I mean, think about it. There's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people just going down this credit screen that helped to make this movie. The credits essentially say, hey, look at all these people working together to do awesome things. That's really what this is. It's basically saying, look at what God is doing. God's awesome. My notes here on the side, my Bible has like all these questions that you might not understand, and then it gives you really cool answers. And so here it asks, why list all these victims? And it says, this list of kings and territories is really a statistical praise song declaring the message, look at all God has done. Behold the once proud kings who fell to our God. That's a really cool way to put it. I mean, instead of calling it the boring credits that nobody wants to watch, they call it a statistical praise song. They're not using, like, all sorts of poetic language and pretty sounds. They're just giving you straight facts, and it's a praise song. I mean, they're saying, look at all God has done with all sorts of numbers and words, and they're giving you God as a bunch of numbers and a bunch of names. Now, I'm not a super big fan of math. I'm not very good at it. But I still think this is really cool. I mean, this is a way that we usually don't see praise songs. I mean, we sing a song about Psalm 23 in church, but I've never heard a Joshua 12 song or anything close to it. You never go into church and, sing about the king of Jericho, the king of Ai, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, the king of Gezer, etc., etc., etc. And I'm not saying we should, but it's something to think of. God can be praised through mass amounts of names and numbers, and it doesn't have to be all poetic and nice. The other thing about credits is, well, although it's a giant mass of names and you can appreciate it that way, you can also appreciate every single tiny name. I mean, you can pick out some pretty cool jobs you didn't even know you needed to make a movie. I mean, did you know that Samuel L. Jackson has his own personal chef? Pretty cool. In the same way, we can look through here, pick out every little name, and probably learn something interesting about it, or at least make a link to somewhere else in the Bible. I mean, here we have the king of Jericho, and then we have Bethel down here. Bethel is where Jacob had his dream about the angels on the ladder. And Geezer, that's where we got the term for grumpy old men. I mean, not actually, don't take my word for it, probably not. But even if you look at it and you look at a map of where all these places are, you can see God is clearing out a very large area, taking out lots of cities to make room for the Israelites. I mean, he's basically wiping out the whole land of Canaan. God is awesome. So maybe Joshua 12 is a bit of a dry read. But if you look at it both as a whole and all the tiny little pieces and think of it as the credits to what God did, it's pretty awesome. As I've said in other videos, just because you don't see what it's saying right off the bat doesn't mean you can't learn anything from it. And hey, remember what I said about baby names? Because there's some unique ones in here. I mean, you don't see many little Ogs or Sihons running around. Just a thought. Thanks for watching. See you guys.